The future looks grim for retirees. I can't. This is so flippin' frustrating to me. How people in my business are just so. I don't even know what the word is, man. I don't even know what the word is. It's mind numbed. I literally don't know what the word is. So it was, Jill sent this to me from Mark Holbert, and I just I'm trying to watch what I say because I'm not trying to call people bad names. But to post this after, all right. Hold on a second. So Mark says retirement planning requires us all to become educated historians. Surely not, you object. We really have to become proficient in just another subject and yet another subject. And I challenge proficient in yet another subject assumes proficiency in the subject we're talking about. And Mark apparently isn't proficient. I'm going to share with you why. It's mind-boggling to me. This isn't. Look, I'm just a guy in my T-shirt, all right, with my dogs. If I can figure this out, certainly Mark Holbert can. God almighty, it's so freaking frustrating. You can delegate the need to become a historical experience to a financial planner, thereby freeing yourselves of the need to become great at history, a good historian yourself. Financial planner, okay. And you're going to assume the financial planner you delegate is going to be reading Mark Holbert's, who's doing the thinking for him? Just as crazy. A good illustration provided by the debate spurned by my column from a month ago. I talked about this. I just smoked that, and I'm going to smoke this one too because it's literally like shooting fish in a barrel at this stage. It's just so easy to take apart these people, and I just can't believe that I'm just stunned. I report on a study that concluded our current financial plans are based on the unrealistically optimistic assumptions and that they used a 1.9% safe withdrawal rate. And I got no qualm with that. Hey, that's fine. If you want to use that, I find the whole thing silly because that assumes a linear withdrawal rate. There's no evidence of this, and yet we're keeping to go back to this. I don't understand why. I don't understand why we keep going back to this linear safe withdrawal rate as if your spending doesn't go down as you age. I don't get it, but I'd love to hear. Again, the only thing I could possibly say why is because this guy on Advisor Perspective said, "Have you seen the price of gas recently and the price of groceries?" I said, "So you're using a short-term price and fluctuation on gas and groceries to inflate your expenditures over 30 years' time?" Is there? I mean, that's silly. It's nuts. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's embarrassingly bad. And these are the best my business has to offer. It's crazy. I don't get it, man. And Mark Holbert didn't say this. Somebody else did, who I will go nameless. So these guys did a study and they said if you take out just U.S. data and you use world data, you can only spend 1.9% a year. Okay, whatever. I don't disagree with that in the least. What I'm saying. Some other guy said he found some other data that said you could spend as much as 6%, which, I use 5% adjusted for the inflation and move on. Now, I use 5% not because I think you should adjust it for inflation, but I think the 4% is way too low. I think 6%, yeah, you can make that work. I get it. But I don't believe the historical nature of the U.S. to pull through for the next 30 to 40 to 50 years. I just don't. I think we're going to be more like Japan. And lo and behold, look at what Mark talks about. He talks about Japan. All right, so the nightmare scenario would be if the U.S. stock market over the next 3 decades perform as poorly as Japan. All right, now I'm not saying the markets will perform as poorly as Japan, but a deflationary cycle we're going into for sure. The price-only version of the Nikkei is currently 30% below where it traded at the end of 1989. I'm like, dude, you're using price only? I can't believe someone would use price only. Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. Why would you? Let's go to my man Dan Colbert. Hold on a second. And we're going to look at the Nikkei from 1989 to the end of, let's do 2020. I guess we go back to 2020. And here's bucket one Nikkei, and we're not adding anything to it. We're just starting with $100,000. We get smoked the first 3 years. Well, we do well the first. We get smoked the next 3. And now we're down to $45,000 at the end of 1999. Again, we're not taking any money out. But either way, we come back, we're down to $28,000 at the end of 2003. By the time 2009 comes around, we're down to $29,000. And by the time 2020 comes around, we're down to 95,000. That's inflation adjusted. That's with dividends reinvested. But that's not 30% below where we started. If you in fact factor in, that's not just price. That's inflation. 110, I should say. Excuse me. At the end of 2020, we're at 110. All right, so we didn't make any money, but we have done better than what Mark Holbert would say, and he's got to know this stuff. And he says that's average 1.1% a year loss. Well, that's just price earnings, but if we price only, but if we add in dividends, it's actually up to you made $10,000 on a $100,000 investment over the course of 30 years. And that sucks, but it's a whole lot different. On an inflation-adjusted basis, this return would be even worse. Okay, but not that much worse. There's the inflation rate for Japan going back to, basically 1992 is zero, negative inflation, negative inflation, negative inflation. We're looking at basically no inflation for the last 30 years. It's just weird, man. Because while we may be tempted to dismiss Japanese experience as exception, we might want to brush up on our history. Some guy says, it was not clear that the U.S. economy over the subsequent 3 decades would far outperform Japan's. Look, if you've been following this channel at all, you know I've been saying that Japan's the model we got to deal with 100%. Absolutely. I completely still agree with that because it makes sense. The deflationary numbers that come in the United States are very reminiscent of Japan, without question. All right, so let's keep going down. He talks about some other countries and all that. So I don't have a qualm using, I don't think we should use it because the United States is an exception to the rule. We're the only game in town for many years. I have no qualm not using the U.S. as our proxy, so to speak, because we are one game out of many, and the days of cheap globalization are gone. And as such, we're going to have more of a Japan-ish environment. 100%. I don't have a qualm with that, but I do take huge issue here. While studying history won't give us yes/no answers to these questions, it can increase our confidence. Okay. Let's see. Hold on a second. All right. So the impact of the lower spending rule. Again, the rule is that you can only take 1.9% a year out of your portfolio, adjusted for inflation. So if you had $1 million, you could take $19,000 out each year. If you had 4% rule, you'd take $40,000. A 6% rule, you'd use $60,000. The difference in these amounts translates into a difference between a comfortable retirement and just barely scraping by. And notice that this is based on $1 million investment portfolio. As I pointed out in my month ago column, only 15% of retirement accounts at Vanguard are worth even $250. Notice accounts. 15% of retirement accounts. Okay. I have a couple different accounts. All right. So if I had 3, each at 200,000, do I have more than 250? The answer is yes. Is any of my individual accounts worth 250? The answer is no. I know, man, at this stage, yes, it's word stuff. I'm telling you, man, you got to look out for these people because a lot of people are telling fibs that they can't back up. And I'm not saying this guy's doing it, but I'm going to show you why I'm starting to think maybe there's something more to this, and it's frustrating. In this regard, remember, retirement accounts, not retirement households, accounts. A lot different. We've talked about this a million times on this channel. It frustrates me that people don't get it. In that regard, I want to correct another statistic that I reported my month ago column. I wrote, according to analysis of the Federal Reserve data, the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College said only 12% of workers have any retirement account in the first place. And of course, I quickly said that's not true. If you actually look at the data, Mark, you'd see he's only 12% of the people had a defined benefit plan. That's what he said. He said, I should have said only 12% of the people have a defined benefit plan. But then he goes on to make a pension, in other words. Additional 33% have a defined contribution, such as 401k or IRA. That still means more than half the workers have no retirement plans. So the situation is indeed grim. Do they? So I want to show you this because, again, does he even read the stuff he cites? So let's look at that, shall we? So he's saying 12% of the people have a defined benefit plan. Before he's saying only 12% of the people have a retirement plan, which is just idiotic. Now he's saying, only 12% of the people have a pension plan and only an additional 33% have a defined contribution plan, such as a 401k or IRA. A defined contribution plan is not an IRA, Mark Holbert. So let's look at what the freaking data says. If we can trust the data, and I don't trust any of this anymore, but let's just go to the horse's mouth. Here again, from Alicia and Anki over at Center for Retirement Research. I have to think this is deliberate, the way they're wordsmithing stuff. I cannot believe that this is innocent. I just can't, because it's so blindingly obvious. The role of 401k/IRAs in the retirement system. 401ks and /IRAs. Retirement savings accounts, 401ks, and IRAs play an increasing important role. So let's keep going down. Very next page, if Mark Holbert could take 2 seconds to look at it. Employer-sponsored plans. Unfortunately, only about half of workers at any time, at any moment in time, have either a defined benefit plan or a 401k, because IRAs are not part of employer-sponsored plans. Just so you see what's happening here. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know how else can you say other than error of omission, not an error of commission. Maybe it is both. I don't know how else you can say it. Unfortunately, only about half of workers at any moment in time participate in either a defined benefit plan or a 401k plan. What does it not say in there? It doesn't say an IRA. See what they did? This is what the freaking people at like Genworth and long-term care people do. They lead you down a path where you make a conclusion based on how they're leading you. But then if you actually pull up, it'll be like, no. That doesn't, that's not, they're wrong. They're combining 401ks and IRAs in this paragraph, but then they're coming down here and you still have in your mind that 401ks and IRAs, but they say explicitly a defined benefit pension or a 401k plan. They're leaving IRAs out. Even worse, only about half the workers at any moment in time. If you follow the climate change crap, you'll know what they say. Like we can produce a gigawatt of a solar panel, the solar energy, electricity, photovoltaic. All right. Well, 1 gigawatt is just for one moment in time. We need how many gigawatt hours? That's what we're looking for. At any one moment in time, I don't care if you have a gigawatt. I need it over a time frame we call gigawatt hours, kilowatt hours, megawatt hours. So having 1 gigawatt, never mind nameplate capacity, I'm not even going to get down on that stuff. It's literally, we got a gigawatt. Okay, convert that to gigawatt hours. You simply do it times 24. 1 gigawatt doesn't mean anything, just for that one moment in time. Same thing here. Only about half workers have a 401k or a defined benefit at any moment in time. I don't have a 401k defined benefit right now. My wife doesn't either. If I ever go back to a crappy little job, I would. It's just freaking stupid. For those lucky enough to have an employer-sponsored plan, from defined benefit to 401k, has nothing to do with IRAs. How well do 401ks collect retirement money? Nothing to do with IRAs. What the hell, man? I throw again, keeping money in the plan about 401ks and IRAs. They just got to throw it in there. Reported 401k balances, the median balance of an account. These balances showed of an account. Although these individual 401k balances provide a hint of what to expect from the Survey of Consumer Finances, these factors make it impossible to determine from these how much households have accumulated in retirement. And again, second, 401k balances may be rolled over to an IRA. Financial services cannot track combined 401k holdings. Now here we go. Now we go to 401k and IRA balances in the Survey of Consumers. The whole thing is just freaking nuts, man. So see how they're kind of going back and forth to trick you. I want to show you something else. I'm reading Questioning Einstein. Is relativity necessary? It's not. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Einstein the magician, because this is along the same lines as what we're dealing with here. We have people that are in the mainstream, and for some reason they I don't know what it is actually. They get I don't know. I'm looking at, like, to challenge them makes you crazy, an unorthodox guy, and that people just go along with it because they're the main. And you're like, well, but they're wrong. I mean, 100% wrong, dude. And yeah, and I don't get why the people in the main, even when they make blindingly obvious mistakes, like saying there's only 50% of the people have 401ks or IRAs, and before saying only 12% of the people have retirement accounts, it's just blatantly wrong. It just, I mean, again, unless the Survey for Consumer Finances and Alicia Winnell stuff at the Center for Retirement Research are wrong. And I would not put that past, frankly, that's incorrect. I wouldn't. But anyway, and here we go with questioning Einstein. And look, everyone and their mom thinks Einstein's all that back in a bag of chips. So here's a guy named Eric Rogers from Princeton. He and Einstein were neighbors. And he had written a book. Eric Rogers was a physicist, professor at Princeton. He had written a book called Physics for the Inquiring Mind. And in his book, he offers what he calls an annoying, untrue fable to warn you of the difficulty of accepting relativity. It is distressing to good mathematical physicists, he says, relativity, but we shall find that what it alleges so impossibly does occur in relativistic adding of velocities. You can't figure it out, but according to relativists, it's there. In the fable, he asks us to watch a magic trick. A conjurer takes an empty bag, which he can inspect beforehand. Which we can inspect beforehand. So we got a magician, he has an empty bag, and we get to look into it. He puts in 2 balls, and he puts in 2 more. The bag is then found to contain 5 balls. It's not an illusion, and we can repeat the exercise as often as we like. So what are we to conclude? Well, according to Eric Rogers, in some cases, 2 plus 2 do not make 4. The rules of mathematics must be modified to fit Einsteinian relativity. And we'll keep going back because it's interesting. Here we got philosopher Bertrand Russell, whose book, The ABCs of Relativity, which he published in 1925, he says, to overcome our difficulty for understanding relativity, we must change our imaginative picture of the world. We got another guy. We live in Einstein's universe. This guy who wrote an article in Natural History magazine, Richard Panic. Special relativity with his high school algebra still does manage to defy imagination. Try as we might, we find it difficult to get our minds around it. Yep. And we got more along those lines. So let's keep going here real quick. So here's the late Edward Teller. When I interviewed him, this is the guy, Tom Bethel, wrote the book. He says general relativity can be questioned. That's why we get quantum mechanics, quantum physics. Special relativity is as firmly established as Euclid's geometry. Special relativity is regarded as true, proved, confirmed, and repeatedly demonstrated. Hey! But general relativity still evokes questions. For over 40 years, at a cost of almost $1 billion, Stanford University prepared an experiment called Gravity Probe A or B, with to test in space a prediction relative to general theory of relativity. Basically, this guy says, C.W. Francis Everett was a director of the Gravity Probe. Anyway, so he says we can't challenge special relativity, but we can challenge general relativity. And you're like, but you can't challenge special relativity because no one understands it. No, but everyone just goes along with the orthodox. Anyway, he says, in any event, a physicist who expresses his nuanced doubts about general relativity or offers refinements to it will get a hearing from the physicist's colleagues. On the other hand, a physicist who entertains doubts about the special theory might as well keep to himself, for as textbooks tell us, it has been tested, confirmed, and repeatedly shown to be true. And it hasn't been. And yet this is the same thing we have here, man. It's like, well, people are too lazy to read. I don't understand it. I don't. Why would you allow false information to keep going out there when you've already called yourself out for having false information? I just don't get it. That's why I think there's a greater issue at stake here. I don't know what it is, man. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know. I don't know why. If you've been called to the mat for your incorrect conclusions, wouldn't you then make sure that the next time you say something, you would make it right? And yet, I don't get it. I don't get it. How many people are not going to retire because of this stuff or freaking out right now? I just don't understand it, man. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts. It is so freaking frustrating to me. And we have evidence on top of evidence on top of evidence and surveys of retirees who are just content in retirement. It's like, why is this happening? Control is the only thing I could think, but why would freaking Mark Hulbert care? But I just don't get it. All right, love your thoughts. We'll see you.